Hello, and welcome to this very special episode of the Keeping Her Keys podcast. I am joined by my friend, Amy Blackthorn. She is one of my favorite witches on the planet, and she writes the most fabulous books. They are always must-haves for me. And we're doing a two-parter. Amy, you have two books out, okay? So before we get into anything, you got to tell me how you managed to have two books come out at the same time.
I wrote them literally at the same time. My brain was looking for all the dopamines, and I'm like, okay, if I need to procrastinate on this book, I'll switch to writing this book until I need to procrastinate on this book. So I was literally gaming my own brain. So I had two different publishers, and they're like, no, it'll be 6 months apart. It'll be fine. And they came out 10 days apart.
It's exciting. So congratulations.
Thank you.
On all your success. Okay, so we're doing a two-parter. In this episode, we're going to be talking about this absolutely phenomenal and cute as a black cat book called Social Media Spell Book. This is it's also like an annual that you could do something every day. I love how it's organized. It's like a page a day. You can start at any time during the year, though. You don't have to, there are dates in it, but I mean, I think the way you've done it is anyone can just kind of dive in and pull what they want, or they could do it like their own course in magic and start on January the 1st and go all the way through and do everything.
And small businesses can use it as a content generation calendar for ideas.
That is so phenomenal because we love to support our small businesses. And like, you're right. You can see, we're going to dive into some of the different areas in here, but you can see that the way you've written this, and you have a co-author with this. We should mention your co-author before we go any further, Natalie Zaman.
Yes.
So how did you connect with Natalie to write this book?
Oh my God, Natalie is the best ever. So we've been friends for a million years. We met at Dover Pagan Pride Day in Delaware. Caroline Kenner, who was a huge force in the East Coast magical community for the last million years, recently moved to Washington State. So Natalie and I got together. Natalie was writing magical destinations of the Northeast. So from Virginia to Maine, any occult places of note, any oddities, attractions, things like that. She was like, hey, I really want to check in with Delaware and see what's going on. I want to make sure that I'm really giving Delaware its due because it's the second smallest state, so it's easily overlooked. What great stuff can we go and do? And Delaware has the largest pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood collection in the United States. So even for such a small state, we've got a ton of pre-Raphaelite Brotherhood material. So we actually got together and we spent the day at the museum and best friends ever since. So she came to me in 2017 and said, hey, I think that your Facebook page, Witchcraft Down and Dirty, it has, 250,000 fans. Right then, how can we bring the energy that you're giving to this page some wings, some voices? Like, memes are magic. The magical community is looking for some understanding, some appreciation, and some magical culture. So how can we bring that? And I said, I love the idea, I love the energy, but social media, Blackthorn's Botanical Magic was just getting ready to come out, and I had no brain space for anything else. So 2 years ago, she said, hey, let's revisit this. It's going to be important. And now we have Social Media Spellbook, 366 ways to get witchy on the web, right in our very hands.
That's amazing. So here's the book again for everybody who's watching this on YouTube and the socials. Social Media Spellbook. I think you hit on something really interesting. You said, like, memes are magic. And I mean, I'm old enough like that. All of this stuff has occurred after was a practicing witch. And I am a child of Mercury, and I love the technology. So as soon as the internet became a thing, it felt natural to me to play in the technology. Like, the internet is invisible communication waves that connect us all. Like, to me, it's so inherently magical, the whole thing about the internet and social media. And there's so much richness to the whole social media like field from a magical perspective. So one thing that we usually do at the start of an episode is we do a very on-technological thing, which is a small candle lighting ritual. So while I do this ritual, I wonder if you could talk a little bit about what a social media equivalent of a really simple ritual like this might be. So we start we work in the counterclockwise motion, to banish and remove any unwelcome energies from space. So really simple. And then we cast the circle around us in a protective, connective motion. And then there's usually some kind of like incantation or invocation or something that we read. So if someone wanted to do something like this, like say on their Instagram page or their Facebook or their TikTok, how could they kind of like cleanse the space and then protect and connect using social media tools?
It's really fantastic. I would love to see videos like that on Instagram because it gives people the ability to visually connect with what they're seeing. But the video, you can just set it down and take that technological step away from it until you're finished with your ritual space by connecting to the elements around you. Right now, those elements include technology like our glasses, our watches, and the phones that are with us in spirit attached to our person every day of the year. We actually have rituals for cleansing and protecting your technology. So things that, like your cell phone that might be in your pocket when you come into ritual space, are part of the ritual technology that we're employing, because we want to make sure that we're honoring the past we came from, but we're also very keen on creating a new reality for the future. Every social media platform has its own thought form, has its own personality, culture, has its own energy. We can look at Facebook as Earth because it's grounding and connecting, and it provides a platform for everyone to build up from, which makes Instagram air because we have all of those really incredible, beautiful photographs that connect us. And it's not really about the words that we're saying, it's what we're communicating through the air through those photos. Twitter is, of course, fire because, oh my goodness, have you seen Twitter?
You probably don't need to explain that to us.
Pinterest is water because the emotional connections to the vibrant communities of the things that we're building to make our homes and our loved ones feel more safe. They're not grounded and connected to each other. But that spirit part has got to be spirit, because social media puts eyes on it, your magic, theoretically destroying the idea of secrecy. But this is where boundaries are so important. You go into a TikTok video, you've cast your circle, and you have the visuals of you working through your magic. But the neat part is you're divorced from that actual practice, and the energy doesn't really necessarily carry through to the video. We've got our own internal experience that we're having, which allows us to keep those boundaries for ourselves and for our viewers.
That's such a good point. So I've been running an online coven for over 5 years now. And so this is, although the online coven is not exactly social media, but the element of technology is present. Okay? And for me, as a high priestess of this coven, where we are based in technology, it's always kind of like front of my mind, like how do we work with the technology so we have like resonant, meaningful experiences? And as someone who has been on social media for quite a few years now, in terms of like my professional work, how do you convey the meaning and the magic? Like you said, what is inherently personal and often a unique experience, like how, if we are trying to invite other people into what we are experiencing or the circle we're casting or the spell we're doing, if we're trying to invite other people in, which I think to me is the point of sharing something on social media. It's not like for me, I'm talking about me personally. For me, I am not like a look at me, look at what I'm doing kind of person. I am very much a like, this is a thing that's important to me and I want to share it and I want to invite you into what I'm doing. Perhaps you can find some meaning and value in what I'm doing too. So, and you do this well too. You've been at this a long time too. So we're kind of like seasoned pros at doing this. But if someone, maybe we could land on that for a minute. Like, do you think there is an energetic difference between like sharing something because you did this really super cool thing and you want some recognition? Nothing wrong with that. Let's be clear. There's nothing wrong with wanting recognition and validation. And then I would say the other kind of like the other end of that spectrum would be you're sharing it from the perspective of wanting to invite other people in to potentially find meaning and value from what you're doing. I don't think they're necessarily, I think they can go together.
Yes.
I don't think they have to go together. I don't know. What are your thoughts on these two ideas?
I think the difference between those two are the physical act of having boundaries. If you are inviting someone to your Thanksgiving dinner because I want to share my table with you because you're someone I love and I care about, I'm going to bring you into my home and I'm going to show you this table setup that I have, whether it's lavish or whether it's very humble. It's the visual touches. It's including that person. Oh, this candelabra was given to me by my great aunt, so I make sure that I put it on every Thanksgiving table. It's the act of inviting that person in. If you're panning across that same room with it empty, there's no context for that. It just is visually appealing, and it allows someone to experience the distance of saying, hey, this is something really beautiful. I wanted to share that with you, versus actually inviting them into your home and making them part of that Thanksgiving dinner, for example. So it's not just about the visuals, it's how much detail you're willing to expound upon because of your idea of how those boundaries are supposed to be set. So when you're talking about the ritual aspect of it, if I'm showing someone an altar setup versus bringing them into my ritual space and saying, hey, this is the altar for my matron. This is this crystal was given to me during my my first degree ceremony. It's the act of sharing and connecting more than just visually. I had a lot of people who, when I talk about building your inner landscape, say, okay, well, I can't really see. I can't see inside my brain. It's just words. People have been told that they can't be a magical practitioner because they can't see inside their own mind. That's absolutely not the case. There are plenty of visually impaired magicians that would blow your socks off. Mm-hmm. So it's not just the act of the visuals that we're purporting. It's the act of connecting and sharing on a deeper level.
I think that's so true. It's so, and beauty, like looking at a beautiful altar, someone who is like an influencer, and that's kind of their stated profession, as they are trying to be an influencer, I would say, which is different than someone like you or I, who are authors, educators, priestesses, herbalists. Like what we're doing in social media is not the be all and end all of what we're doing. It's the sharing. Like we're sharing what it is we do.
Right.
Which I think is different from being an influencer. What do you think? Do you agree with that?
I absolutely do, because the idea of an influencer, it can be someone is just starting out. I found a book on witchcraft this week and we're going to go on this journey together. It's the together piece. It's not the fact that it's a journey about witchcraft. It's the togetherness that they're searching for. So they're not claiming to be an expert. They're not claiming to really teach anyone. They want to talk about their experiences, not what they're learning. So again, it's the context is everything.
That's so true. And it, like when it comes to like who you follow on social media, I'm wondering, now that you've written this book and obviously done a lot of thinking about social media and magic, do you have any tips? Like if someone is trying to figure out if like a certain witch or influencer, an herbalist, an astrologer, if they're worth following, like how do you determine that yourself?
Vetting sources is so important. Oh my God. So especially in the age of AI generated books that you can buy from Amazon, the first thing that I want to tell you is to go and search Amazon for whoever you're looking for, whoever you want to talk to, whether you're buying from them or not, because the power of their search engine. I want you to look at the number of titles. The very first thing is probably go to the bestseller list for that genre that you're looking at. you'll find one or two imposters in that list, but it's harder to get on that list because we're actual people with real jobs and social media platforms to get out there and talk about what we're doing. So if someone has, say, 400 titles under their name, guess what? They're probably AI generated, written by a bot.
Mm-hmm.
You want to support your actual authors who are part of our community, who are have been here and continue to support our community. So go to Facebook, copy and paste their name into Facebook, see if they have an author page, see if they've got a presence on Instagram or TikTok or Lemon or wherever it is. See what their social media platform looks like. See if there's a photo attached. A lot of people, we look in a community because it's a little bit fringe. There can be authors who are not necessarily interested in having their picture out there, but they're far and fewer between now that it's such an important part of your publicity plan to make sure people have a face to connect to the work that you're doing. When I was working on Botanical Magic, I had my very first copy. It was out in the stores, and I go and I'm so excited. I'm going to find it on the shelf, and I pick it up, and I'm in a Barnes & Noble. I pick it up. I take it up to the circulation desk, information desk, and say, "Hey, can I sign this?" And the woman says, "You want to write in our book? Like, are you buying it?" I'm like, No. This is my book. I wrote it." She's like, "How do I know you wrote it?" So I had to like flip open the back and find, oh, it doesn't count because this is the wrong book. But I had to pull open the back cover and say, look, it's my face. It's my real person. So honestly, doing a 2-minute search is a great place to weed out a lot of those names right off the top of the bat. Any group on Witchcraft right now is filled with people who are desperate to give you their recommendations on books you should or shouldn't read. My first, especially with new practitioners, I always tell them, read everything you can. Mm-hmm. Especially if you think that you won't agree with it, because I want you to be able to defend your position as to what you don't like about it, why you don't like it, not just so-and-so on the internet said a thing. There was a rumor going around that I had written a book, that it wasn't mine, that I wrote on something that I didn't write. And it was like, books are a lot of work, like a lot of work. If I'm writing a book, it's going to have my name on it. That's just pure and simple. That you want to make sure that your people are people who can point to a photograph and say, "Hey, this is Amy Blackthorn. She wrote this book." So it's always going to be the first thing. We live in the age of podcasts and really incredible connection tools. So you're going to have the opportunity to figure out ways to get a hold of a real person.
That's so true. And there's so many fake accounts out there. I really appreciate like your tips of just like taking a moment before you invest your energy, whether it's time or money, just do a little bit of research. I think, always one of my tips for someone who's just getting started with witchcraft is like, use your research skills. Like, research until something feels right. Like, don't rush into anything. I think for me, witchcraft is all about doing that kind of critical appraisal to see if something is right for you, to see if it will work for you. It's not about just jumping on board and following something because it's trendy. It's always about introspection, which I believe is January the 3rd.
Dun, dun, dun.
So getting into the book, okay, I want to talk about, I think, something that's related, but it's also the day after, which is January the 4th, which is online magical names. So, Amy, I have never had an online magical name. I do indeed have a sacred name.
Yes.
And I never, ever will share it publicly. Right. What's your take on this?
It's security. It's pure and simple personal security. When people come to me and say, "Hey, I want to be an author. What do you have to tell me? What can?" And my first answer is always use a pen name. Always, 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 forever and ever. Amen. For this very simple reason of personal security. If someone doesn't like the fact that you're a witch, if they don't like the fact that you are voting a certain way, if they don't like the job that you do or the place that you live, they can go on your social media and say, "Oh, well, so-and-so lives in this place and works at this company." So I can call their boss and say they were a jerk to me online and get them fired. I have I wrote Blackthorn's Protection Magic after 15 years in personal security.
Mm-hmm.
It was really, really important for me. But the first thing that people want to talk about is how dangerous it can be to be a witch in public. I've been threatened with death. I've been physically assaulted. I've been run off the road into oncoming traffic. People get very, very in their feels when you talk about being of a religion that's outside of theirs. And it can be very dangerous to be a witch. So absolutely, online magical names, whether it's completely separate from your magical persona that you would use in ritual or not, absolutely, I recommend finding a magical name, working with whatever process looks like for you, but protect your legal identity in any way you can. There was a woman I used to work with, and we used to teach together. She was a high priestess of her own tradition. We ran a Wicca 101 together, so we had opposing viewpoints to really dig in and allow people to see more than one viewpoint.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was invited to go to their Samhain ritual one year. And I did not know at that point what that ritual entailed, but there was a detail that I'm confident in sharing with you. There was a part in their Samhain ritual every year where they paid homage to the Salem witch trials. And so they're like, hey, this can be really moving. We want to let you know ahead of time that this will be part of the ritual. You just don't know how or where or when, but we know that this is something that happens. Okay. I'm taking it very seriously. It's a completely silent ritual. We were having a dump supper after. We were making sure that all the bases were covered. And so they bring us into there's a challenge at the door. We come into the ritual space. Everyone sits down. They're quiet. Eyes are closed. So we've all been instructed. And so everyone's waiting with bated breath, with their eyes closed, huddled in a circle in a basement in the middle of nowhere, Maryland, going, okay, like, when is this ritual going to happen? And we didn't know the high priestess of the ritual had left the room and closed the door to wait an uncomfortably long time until everyone's starting to get itchy and nervous and shifting their bodies around. And she starts pounding on the door. Open up. We have your emails. We know where you meet. This is the police. Like, open the door. My God. I mean, you could have heard a pin drop because it was so visceral. I was expecting some pilgrims in robes, weird hats reference, and no, they had brought it into today. They had brought it into social media. They had brought it into the realm of now and made it so poignant that this is a reality we can have to deal with at some point. And it was terrifying. I mean, people cried. I definitely cried. It was incredibly moving and terrifying. And it just really cemented for me the need to protect my legal persona as best I can through the use of an online magical name and making sure that my house, my kids, my safety, my dogs. I have dogs.
They're kids. They're your kids.
They're my kids. And it was just, I mean, I've had people threaten to kill my pets. I've had people threaten to burn my house down. I've been stalked. This is serious business.
This whole thing with sacred names is really fascinating to me. And you made a couple of really important points. One is that you may have a sacred name or a magical name that is entirely private and that you never share on social media. And that also you recommend that for anything public facing, from being an author or perhaps even a social media like profile on Facebook or Instagram or TikTok, that you use some kind of pseudonym basically to protect your identity.
Yes.
Which I think is a great idea. And as you know, I use my legal name. I am Cindy Brannon. Well, it's a shortened version of my legal name. And the reasons that I did that, because you're right, I have faced things, challenges, gotten hate mail, gotten all kinds of weird mail. People track you down and send you things in the mail. Like, it's people. And at the same time, like, part of my sacred contract with Hecate when I agreed to do this work that was really pressing for me was that it needed to be my name, like my legal name, that there wasn't going to be a separation. So I'm with you in the advice that I would never advise anybody unless they felt very strongly that it had to be their legal name to use a pseudonym for anything public facing. You're going to be a lot safer.
Yeah.
Because there are people out there who will cause all kinds of just the things that people do. Okay. So I mentioned our beloved Hecate, who, as the queen of the in-between and a liminal goddess, there is something so liminal about social media, the whole thing, right? It's the in-betweenness. It is real, but not tangible. It is enchanted, but also practical. Like there's all of these liminal things that go on with social media. So you do have an entry in the book on the night of Hecate, Nemeralia, which was the traditional feast of Diana and now is more connected with Hecate. And so if you want, so you do have a page for our beloved Hecate in the book. I just wanted to give a shout out for that. And also I wanted to talk about, just for a few minutes, about the liminality of social media and what that means from the perspective of someone who practices witchcraft.
When we talk about the way that everything flows through the space that we occupy in social media, we've seen the rise and fall of different social media platforms more than we even think. You know, people think of Facebook first and foremost, but 10 years ago, they had the same thoughts about MySpace, or 20 years they had about LiveJournal. And each iteration goes back even further. You know, I have dear friends who met and fell in love over bulletin board systems in the 80s. We are finding ways to connect because these spaces, these liminal places, are so far and fewer between the further back in our history we go. We are desperate to look out and find the people that we are absolutely desperate to connect with. We're going to find those connections any way we can. If that means you're joining a Facebook group, or it means that you were using the witch's voice to try and find a coven in your state. I turned 18 and I went on the witch's voice and said, okay, I'm gonna go and find something for myself. And you could go and you could look up your state, you could look up your city, find members of the clergy, you could find shops, you could find open rituals. People are desperate for that view of connection, and Hecate is ready at the crossroads to line up those dots, to connect those dots for us and with us, because we deserve to have the family of spirit, whether that be in person or over the internet. I was coming up in the middle to late 90s when anyone who was under 18, you couldn't talk to them. So online covens for teens popped up like mushrooms after a rain, because we didn't have the ability to talk to a grown-up because there was a fear of being harmed, sued, and prosecuted for talking to a minor about religion.
So interesting. The witch's voice. Can we have a moment just to hail the witch's voice and how much it meant back in the day? You youngsters today, you don't know what it's like. They'll never have that same experience, right? It was like the one place. And also, while we're at it, can we just remember paganspace.net?
Oh my God, paganspace.net. So I'm looking at August 15th, we have Hecate's Harvest. Hecate's bread is an offering to Hecate on the Deepnon, the religious or devotional food offering on the feast day of the new moon. However, she is also celebrated with bread offerings for her today. People would petition Hecate to heal injured body parts by offering her loaves of bread shaped like the injured part. So if you broke your arm, you'd bake Hecate an arm loaf of bread. This is a 2-ingredient savory bread. 2 ingredients, easy peasy. It's got a lovely sourdough finish to it. 1 cup of self-rising flour and 1 cup of Greek yogurt. You can substitute vegan Greek yogurt or vegan sour cream if you're vegan. Preheat the oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. Mix it nice and well. throw it in the oven at 350. It takes between 15 and 20 minutes, half an hour at the outside. And please feel free to decorate it, season it, flavor it, carve it into a shape. But it's a great bread. It's very easy to work with if you're not someone who's got a lot of experience baking. You don't have to have a lot of measuring cups. It's a 1-to-1 recipe. So if all you have is the yogurt cup that it came in, put the yogurt in the bowl, fill it up with the flour, dump it in there, and you've got your 1-to-1 ratio.
That's amazing. That's such an easy recipe and such a perfect offering to Hecate.
And it has such a
Anybody can kind of make, but it's also special, which is nice. It's easy, but it's more special than just going to the store and buying a loaf of bread.
Exactly.
Okay. So we've covered quite a bit of ground here. We're recording this. We're in the thick of eclipse season, and we're also approaching the Libra new moon, which means that Samhain, the most wonderful time of the year, is coming up. So you've got quite a few things that they can do around Samhain, but one spell that really kind of popped to me is something fun that we could do, and that gets into the spirit of Halloween too, is this candy corn creativity. And another reason I wanted us to talk about the candy corn creativity, because you specifically say, like, make this into a social media post. Like, you're doing this with the intention that it's going to become a social media post. It's not you do the thing and then you do a post afterwards. It's like the magic of the sharing on social media is woven into the spell, like right from the get-go in this. Okay. So will you walk us through how we can do candy corn creativity?
Absolutely. Once upon a time, October was the only time of year when candy corn was readily available to satisfy Halloween sweets. I prefer the Brock's Halloween candy corn because it's made with real honey. It's not corn syrup. It doesn't taste like plastic. It's just this wonderful honey treat. The inventors realized the magical associations of its colors and ingredients. Get yourself a bag of traditional candy corn, set up your camera to record in time-lapse mode, and use the candy corn to spell out your creative dreams. Use it to create magical designs or sigils to add powers to your spell. Sigils and spirals represent the creative process, equilateral crosses for balance, eyes to draw eyes to your work. As each piece is placed, please see yourself transforming through creativity. Visualize your work blossoming and giving you others joy. Share your video on your platform of choice with the hashtags candycorn creativity and candycorn magic spell to seal the spell. So gather up the corn when you're done. Feed the candy corn to the land spirits. Make sure that you are embodying that spirit, embodying that practice as best you can. When you're going through social media spellbook, you'll look at the top of each spell. There's little icons that tell you which platforms are best for the spell that we're doing. So you're already prepared with what materials you might want or need. So if it's a video platform, you could use something like TikTok. But if you see the little picture logo, we're looking at something like Instagram, or the app for something like Twitter. So it's really lovely to be able to have those things right up front to know what you're doing with them. But you don't need a lot of specialized equipment because remember, the magic is within the practitioner. It's not within the candles and the oils and the spells that we're purchasing, that we're making up the materials. These are sacred tools to help us connect with what's on the inside. The magic is still within you. It's just our job to make sure that we take the time to connect as best we can, and this is what helps us do it.
So well said, Amy. This has been a great talk. So social media spell book written by you with Natalie Zaman it's available everywhere, right?
Yep.
It's a great book. It makes a great gift too. That's the other thing, even for someone who is like witch curious. This is a book for anybody who is into practicing magic and is on social media. Thanks again. Taking us sweet times.